Hello, and welcome. I'm so glad you've found your way to Golden Era Stories, your quiet sanctuary from the modern world. My purpose here is to be your guide on a journey back in time to tales that have echoed through the ages. So, before you settle in completely, please take a quiet moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you feel these stories offer you a sense of wonder and escape. I love to imagine our tales reaching every corner of the world, so let me know in the comments where you are listening from and what time the stars are keeping for you. It truly makes our community feel as timeless as the stories themselves. Now, find your quiet corner, dim the lights, and let the noise of today fade away. The tapestry is ready. The threads are spun. Let our journey into the past begin. The first thread we shall follow this evening tells the tale of the Weaver of Mist and the King of Forgotten Stars. In an age before ages, when the world was still soft clay in the hands of creation, the heavens and the earth were woven together by threads of light and shadow. In the celestial expanse, among clouds of cosmic dust and shimmering nebulae, lived the Sky Weavers. They were not gods, but artisans of reality. Immense, ancient beings of pure light, moving with the slow, deliberate grace of drifting continents. Their work was the great pattern, weaving the arms of galaxies, igniting the hearts of suns, and setting the silent orbits of countless worlds. They communicated not in words, but in harmonious resonances, a cosmic choir that maintained the balance of all things, never deviating from the grand design. And in the quietest corner of this cosmos, where the stars were born not from fire, but from whispers, sat the youngest of them, Ilara. Her loom was smaller, made of petrified moonlight, and her work was more delicate. She was the Weaver of Mist. While her brethren handled the brilliant and the colossal, she wove the subtle things, the mists that veiled sleeping worlds, the gentle fogs that kissed the morning hills, and the soft clouds that carried the first rains of a new season. Her work was the breath between the words of the cosmic poem. One cycle, as she worked her loom, a thread of unusual color appeared before her. It was not silver, nor gold, nor black. It was gray. A flat, lifeless gray, like stone that had never known the sun, like water that had never known a current. It felt cold to the touch, and it did not hum with energy as the other threads did. It was a thread of silence, of stillness, and of something lost. A curiosity, a rare feeling among the timeless sky weavers, stirred within her. She gently plucked the gray thread. In its dull reflection, she saw a world she recognized, the vibrant sphere of Zemeria. But the vision was of a place faded and silent, of a king whose heart was buried in sorrow, a king who had forgotten the stars. And as he forgot, his world was unraveling into this creeping, empty gray. A feeling deeper than curiosity took hold of Ilara. It was a call to act, a desire not just to weave, but to mend. As she contemplated this impulse, a deep, resonant sound touched her mind, a sound like an ancient, slow-ringing bell. Near her loom, the starlight condensed, forming a brighter, denser presence. It was Silas, the eldest of the weavers, the guardian of the great tapestry. He did not speak, yet his thoughts flowed into her, calm and clear as the space between stars. "I feel your intent, little weaver," the resonance echoed in her mind. "The thread is one of deep sorrow. It is a sad pattern, but it is a pattern nonetheless. Our purpose is to weave the threads we are given, not to question their color." Ilara met his ancient gaze, her own light soft but steady. "But must we weave a pattern of nothingness? What is the purpose of our light if we allow a world to forget it ever existed?" Silas grew silent for a long moment, the light around him pulsing gently. His thoughts came again, softer this time. "Be warned, the silence of the mortal realm is heavy. It clings. To touch a world so faded is to risk fading with it. Your light is young and bright, Ilara. Do not let it be swallowed by a shadow you cannot unweave." The guardian's light receded, leaving her once more in the quiet of her cosmic corner. His warning was not a command, but a choice. She looked at the gray thread, then at her own shimmering hands. His words gave her pause, but they did not change her heart. In fact, they strengthened her resolve. With a new sense of purpose, knowing the risk, she gathered her small satchel of potent threads. A thread of the first dawn, golden and warm. A thread of the deepest midnight, filled with peaceful dreams. And a single shimmering thread of starlight, containing the memory of a forgotten song. She would descend, not just as a weaver, but as a tender of a fading light. She wrapped herself in her cloak of mists and became like a falling star, a silent traveler on a courageous journey towards the pale, quiet world below. Ilara's descent was not a fall, but a gentle unwinding of her being from the celestial loom. Wrapped in her cloak of mist, she became a phantom star, a silent traveler, journeying through the vast, breathing darkness. But this journey was not through an empty void. It was a passage through the hidden layers of reality. First, she passed through the Veil of Echoes. Here, faint sounds from the beginning of time still lingered in space. The soft chime of a newly formed crystal moon, the whisper of gas clouds coalescing into stars, the fading hum of a forgotten cosmic song. It was a beautiful but profoundly lonely soundscape. Next, she entered the Veil of Colors, where light did not travel in straight lines, but pooled and eddied like liquid paint. She drifted through currents of deep indigo that felt like peace, and past globules of nascent yellow that felt like joy. It was a silent, moving sea of pure emotion, and she passed through it carefully, letting the colors wash over her without staining her purpose. Beyond the veils lay a vast, darker stretch of space where the stars were few and far between. It was here that the Guardian's warning felt most true, an emptiness so profound it could swallow a young star's light. For a moment, Ilara felt a sense of being adrift, but then she saw it, a soft, undulating blue light in the distance. It was a stellar ray, an ancient and silent creature the size of a small moon, gliding gracefully through the dark. Its back was a living map of forgotten constellations, and its eyes were two old, quiet stars. It acknowledged her with a gentle dip of a celestial wing, a silent greeting from one ancient being to another. In its wake, it left a shimmering current of starlight, a safe path through the emptiness. Ilara understood. She followed this gentle cosmic river, which guided her safely and set her on the final course for Zemiria. Soon she felt a change in the texture of space. The cosmic hum was gone, replaced by a silence that was heavier, emptier. For the first time, she felt the pull of gravity, a gentle but sorrowful hand guiding her down. She pierced the world's atmosphere, her misty cloak becoming a true cloud, soft and cool. Below her, the land stretched out, pale and silent, just as she had seen it in the gray thread. She landed as softly as a snowflake in a field just outside the great city's walls. She stood for a moment, feeling the faded grass beneath her feet. It did not whisper in the wind, for there was no wind. Everything was still, motionless, and silent. Ilara walked through the open gates of the great city. The cobblestone streets were unnervingly clean, free from the usual signs of life. No dust danced in the air, no stray leaves skittered across the ground. The silence was the first thing she noticed, a silence so deep it felt like the world's oldest secret. She passed by what was once a vibrant public garden. Now it was a petrified memory. Roses with petals like brittle ash stood frozen on their stems. A fountain, once bubbling with life, was now a cascade of smooth gray stone, the water solidified in its final graceful fall. Even time itself seemed to have stopped here. Further on, she glanced through the tall doorway of the Grand Library. Inside, ancient scrolls lay open on dusty tables, as if the readers had simply vanished mid-sentence. Sunbeams, pale and gray, pierced the high windows, illuminating dust motes that hung motionless in the air, like a captured galaxy of tiny, silent stars. As she turned down a smaller residential street, she saw a slight movement. There, in a small alcove, sat a child, almost blending in with the gray stone walls. The child was utterly still, focused on the ground, tracing patterns in the thick dust with a sharp little stone. Ilara drew closer, her misty form making no sound. She looked down and saw that the patterns were not random scribbles. They were constellations. Crude, childish, but unmistakable. The shape of the Great Bear, the curve of the serpent, the small, bright cluster of the Seven Sisters. The child was drawing the stars they could no longer see, pulling them from a memory deeper than the sorrow that covered the land. Ilara paused, her core of light feeling a gentle, hopeful ache. She did not approach or speak. She simply watched this small, silent act of defiance against the silence. This was not just a king's grief. This was a world's memory, sleeping, but not yet dead. With this image etched into her mind, her purpose felt clearer, warmer. Her destination was now closer. In the heart of the city stood the royal palace, the source of this silent sorrow. She walked towards it, no longer just a weaver on a mission, but a guardian of a small, star-drawing child's lingering dream. The palace was a colossal structure of gray marble, standing like a tombstone for a forgotten glory. As Alara entered the vast halls, the silence within was different, heavier, and more personal. Her misty form made no sound, yet even she felt as though she were intruding on a long-held private grief. A faint, phantom scent of withered flowers drew her down a side corridor, towards a pair of ornate doors left slightly ajar. She passed through them and into what were once the Queen's chambers. The air here was thick with memory. Withered jasmine vines, now gray and brittle, clung to a trellis by a tall window. In a corner, a beautiful lyre stood draped in cobwebs, a single string snapped and curled. On a small loom, an unfinished tapestry depicted a vibrant sunrise, but the threads faded to gray halfway through. A story of a life interrupted. Leaving the quiet tragedy of the rooms behind, she proceeded to the great throne hall. High on the walls, faded murals were barely visible in the dim light. They showed a vibrant history, kings charting the stars, festivals under the full moon, a city alive with color and song. It was a ghost of the world as it was meant to be. The great throne itself sat empty, but it was also covered by a simple gray cloth, as if the very idea of kingship had been put to rest. And there, beside a colossal window, stood the king. He was not looking out, but rather looking inward at a sorrow only he could see. King Lyron was a tall man, but his shoulders were stooped beneath the weight of his grief. His hair was as dark as a starless sky, and his clothes were simple and gray. His eyes, which were said to hold the sparkle of constellations, were fixed and empty. He was a statue carved from sorrow itself. Alara did not speak, for in this place words were useless. Instead, she sat quietly on the floor a distance away from him and opened her small satchel. She brought out her small, portable loom made from the branch of a celestial willow tree. Then she took out the first thread. The first thread was that of the first dawn, glowing with a warm golden hue, radiating a gentle heat into the cold hall. Alara set it upon her loom. She was not weaving cloth, but weaving a tale, a myth of the beginning. She wove of a time when the universe was only a great sleep, a comfortable, velvet darkness, peaceful and complete. But within this sleep, the first thought awoke. It was not lonely, but it was curious. It wondered what else there could be besides the quiet dark. And this curiosity became a tiny, warm spark. The spark did not explode into fire. Instead, it began to breathe. It drew in the soft darkness and exhaled a gentle golden light. With each slow breath, it grew, not like a raging sun, but like a blooming celestial flower. This was how the first dawn was born, not from force, but from a single, gentle, curious thought. As Alara's hands moved, a warm golden light filled the corner of the hall, softer and more persistent than before. King Lyron, still standing by the window, felt this phantom warmth on his skin. He did not turn, but his eyelids fluttered just once. Deep within the frozen landscape of his mind, a single seed of a memory stirred, a faded image of a warm morning long ago. And outside the palace walls, in the petrified garden, this gentle light found a home. At the heart of the garden, one of the stone roses began to soften. Slowly, as if waking from a long slumber, a single petal of pale gold unfurled, glowing with a soft inner light against the lifeless gray. A quiet miracle in a silent world. When Ilara finished her weaving, the golden light in the hall receded, but the warmth remained in the air. She let the woven tale, now invisible, float free, a whisper of light and the promise of a single blooming flower in a sea of shadow. Next, Ilara took out a silver blue thread that vibrated with a low, faint frequency. This was the thread of the first river, the memory of the world's first sound. She set it upon her loom and began to weave a new story. She wove a tale of the world after the dawn, a world of silent stone and light. The new sun was beautiful, but it felt a gentle loneliness in the absolute quiet. So it wept a single tear of liquid light, which fell upon the highest mountain peak. The tear wished to explore the world, but the stone was unyielding. So it did not try to force a path, but instead it began to whisper to the stone, a soft, rhythmic hum. For ages it whispered, persuading the stone to soften, to yield, and eventually the stone agreed. A tiny path was offered, and the tear of light began to flow. Its whisper became a trickle, then a murmur, and finally a song. This was the first sound, not a noise that broke the silence, but a gentle agreement between light and stone. As Ilara wove this tale, for the first time in countless years, the memory of a sound entered the throne room. It was not a real sound, but the faintest echo of distant trickling water. King Lyron slowly, almost imperceptibly, lifted his head, as if listening for a melody from a long-forgotten dream. It was as if the frozen river in his heart felt a faint tremor, a reminder of flow and of life. And beyond the palace, the great river Zara felt this echo. A deep, gentle vibration started from its riverbed. The heavy stillness broke, and a slow but definite current began to stir its gray waters, making them seem for a moment almost clear. In the city, the small child who drew the stars in the dust paused, and, without knowing why, made a soft, quiet sound, a single, humming note, the first vocal sound in Zamiria in years. When the weaving was complete, the echo of sound faded, but the feeling of movement remained. Ilara let the second story float into the air, a whisper of sound that had already found a new home in a flowing river and in a child's quiet hum. Finally, Ilara brought out the last thread she had carried with her. It was her most precious, a thread of pure starlight, shimmering with a silver and deep blue brilliance. It did not hold just a memory, but a promise, the memory of a forgotten song. As she set it upon the loom, The hall was illuminated with a soft silver light, as if the ceiling had vanished, replaced by a clear and perfect night sky. Elara began to weave her last and most important story. It was not a story of creation, but of connection. She wove the memory of a warm summer night on a high balcony of this very palace. She wove the image of a young Prince Lyran, his eyes full of wonder, tracing a pattern in the sky for his princess, whose hair held the light of the sun. "That one," he whispered, "is not in any of the old charts. It will be ours. We shall call it the Queen's Lyre." She wove their quiet conversations under that secret constellation. He would tell her the ancient myths the stars held. She, in turn, would tell him the new stories she saw in them, stories of hope and a bright future for their people. The stars were their book, their map, and their silent promise to each other. She wove the melody of the lullaby they composed together, a song where each verse was about a different star in their secret constellation, a melody only two souls in the universe knew. As Elara wove this beautiful, painful memory, a single tear escaped King Lyran's eye, then another. They were not tears of despair, but of remembrance. For the first time since his queen had left, he felt not the emptiness she had left behind, but the profound love that had once filled it, a love as vast and as real as the stars themselves. Drawn by the memory, the king moved. He walked slowly, as if in a dream, out of the throne hall and onto the cold stone of the high balcony. He lifted a trembling hand to the sky, which was now a deep, clearing blue. His finger traced a familiar shape in the air. And as he completed the pattern of the Queen's Lyre, the real stars of that constellation pulsed in response. They glowed with a soft, silver-blue light, shining brighter than all the others, a celestial echo of his love. Standing under their light, he whispered a single word to the sky, the first true word spoken from his heart in years. "I remember." As the king whispered his remembrance, the stars of the Queen's Lyre pulsed one last time, sending a soft silver-blue light cascading down from the heavens. It was not a harsh light, but a gentle rain of healing mist. Where it touched, the world awoke. Inside the palace, the gray cloth on the throne dissolved into shimmering dust. In the queen's chambers, the withered jasmine vines sprouted tiny green leaves. In the city, the stone roses in the petrified garden bloomed into a riot of impossible colors. The great river Zara now flowed with clear, starlit water, and its gentle song returned. The light touched the people. They stopped, looking at their hands as warmth and color returned to them. Then, one by one, they looked up. A single gasp was heard, then another. A murmur of wonder spread through the streets. In a quiet alleyway, the small child looked up from the dust, saw the brilliant sky, and a smile bloomed on their face as they whispered the word, "Stars." Ilara's task was done. Her work of mending was complete. While the king watched the miracle of his world's rebirth from the balcony, he saw a faint, shimmering shape of mist and starlight rise from the heart of the city. He did not see a person, but he understood. It was a gift, an answer to his long silence. He gave a quiet, grateful nod to the ascending light, a silent acknowledgement between a mortal king and a celestial weaver. Ilara returned to the cosmos just as quietly as she had arrived. She became a phantom star once more, her return journey light and bright, leaving behind a world that was remembering how to sing. Back at her celestial loom, Ilara found a new thread waiting for her. It was not gray. It was a thread of the deepest midnight blue, shimmering with the light of a secret constellation and vibrating with a quiet, beautiful song. It was a thread of gratitude, a thread of hope, the memory of a king who had remembered the stars. She took it, her heart full, and began to weave a new kind of mist, one that carried the most beautiful dreams to all the sleeping worlds below. And now, let us travel from the celestial expanse down into the deepest, quietest parts of our world, to a shore that whispers of things long lost. Our next story is The Sunken City of Aeridor and the Keeper's Song. In our world, there are echoes of worlds that came before, faint whispers of an age of wonders when magic was the breath of the land and cities were built in harmony with the stars and the sea. But time is a slow tide, and most of these memories have been washed away, leaving only the faintest outline, like a fossil in ancient stone. But not all is forgotten, for in a quiet, secluded tower overlooking a lonely sea lived Lion. He was the last of the listeners, a lineage of souls born with the ability not to hear the present, but to feel the resonant echoes of the past. He lived a simple life, charting the tides and the stars, but his true work began when the world grew quiet at night. He would sit by his high-arched window and listen. He did not listen with his ears, but with his heart. He felt the sorrow of ancient forests, the joy of forgotten festivals in the sighing of the wind, and the deep, slow thoughts of the mountains themselves. He was a librarian of memories that had no books. But for many months, one echo had grown stronger than all others. It did not come from the wind or the land, but from the sea. It came to him in his sleep, a dream that was always the same. He would find himself floating in the deep, dark, silent ocean, yet he could breathe. He felt no cold and no fear. Below him, nestled in a vast undersea canyon, was a city of impossible beauty. Towers of pearlescent material spiraled upwards, glowing with a soft internal light. Luminous gardens of sea flora swayed in a gentle, unseen current. Bridges of woven light connected the spires, and everything was enclosed in a vast, shimmering bubble of tranquil energy. The city was perfect, and it was utterly silent. No one walked its crystalline streets. No lights flickered in its countless windows. Every night he would drift through the silent avenues of this sunken city, a lonely ghost in a sleeping world. He knew its name, whispered in the dream itself, Aeridor. The dream was not a nightmare. It was profoundly peaceful, but it was filled with a deep, unspoken question, a feeling of a story waiting to be heard, a duty left unfulfilled. It was not a cry for help, but a plea to be remembered. Lion knew his work as a listener was calling him to his greatest task. He had to find the source of this echo. He had to find the shore that whispered the name Aeridor. His journey would not be one of maps and compasses, but of following the pull of a silent, sleeping memory deep beneath the waves. Lion packed no maps for his journey, for no map contained his destination. He took only a simple cloak, a water skin, and the deep, resonant pull of the dreaming city in his heart. He left his tower at dawn and walked not towards a landmark, but towards a feeling, a faint hum in the bones of the earth, guiding him steadily northward along the coast. For many days he walked. The world around him slowly changed. The tidy forests gave way to ancient, gnarled woods draped in moss, and the air grew thick with the scent of salt and damp earth. The sounds of the world faded behind him, replaced by the constant, rhythmic sigh of the ocean and the cry of lonely gulls. He was walking out of the present and into the past. He knew he had arrived when the feeling was no longer a pull from a distance, but a deep, humming resonance directly beneath his feet. He stood upon the whispering shore. There was no sand here, only a vast expanse of smooth, dark stones, polished by eons of a tide that no longer seemed to exist. The air was utterly still, yet it was filled with a constant, soft whisper, as if the stones themselves were exhaling the collected memories of the ocean. The water before him was as calm and clear as dark glass. In the shallows, strange, beautiful sea flora glowed with a soft inner luminescence, their fronds swaying gently in a current he could not feel. A great natural archway of black rock stood at the water's edge, framing the sea like a forgotten gateway to another world. This was the threshold. This was the place where the veil between what is and what was at its thinnest. Lian did not rush. He sat upon the humming stones and waited, letting the whispers of the shore wash over him, attuning his spirit to the deep magic of the place. He waited for the double twilight, that perfect, tranquil moment when the sun has vanished below the horizon, but the thirst star has not yet appeared in the sky. When the moment came, a profound stillness fell upon the world. He stood and walked towards the great stone arch. He stepped into the water, and it was not cold. It felt like stepping into a liquid memory. As he waded deeper, the whispering of the shore enveloped him, and with each step, he felt the weight of the surface world begin to drift away. He was no longer a man walking into the sea. He was a memory going home. As the last connection to the shore faded, Lilian did not swim. He simply fell. It was a slow, weightless descent, like a single leaf drifting through an endless sky. He did not need to breathe. The ancient magic of the place held him, sustaining him. He was a thought, drifting down through the ocean's mind. He passed first through the realm of sunken light. Here, the last rays of the evening sun pierced the surface, creating a cathedral of shifting golden beams around him. Silvery schools of fish moved like a single silent thought, their scales catching the light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. The sounds here were the ghosts of the surface world, the faint, fading echo of a distant wave. Deeper he drifted, into the twilight garden. The golden light from above was gone, replaced by a deep violet gloom. But this darkness was not empty. It was alive, with a soft, cold light. Drifting bells of pale blue luminescence pulsed gently around him. Ribbons of green energy twisted in slow, graceful arcs, and constellations of tiny glowing shrimp blinked in and out of existence, a living galaxy in the deep. The whispers of the shore had faded now, replaced by a low, silent hum, the collective life force of the deep ocean. He felt no pressure, no cold, only a profound sense of peace, of being in a place of ancient, quiet life. And still he sank further into the endless midnight. Here, all light from above and from life ceased. It was a perfect velvet darkness, a place of immense stillness and solitude. The hum of the twilight garden was gone. There was only the pure, absolute silence of the abyss and the single clear echo of Aeridor, pulling him ever downward. In the vast dark, he himself seemed to possess a faint inner glow, a small, lonely spark of warmth in the heart of the deep. After what felt like an age drifting through this peaceful nothingness, he saw it. Far, far below, a soft, pearlescent glow began to push against the darkness. It grew steadily brighter, not as a harsh light, but as a gentle dawn rising from the sea floor. It was the light of the sleeping city. He was close. As Lillian drifted down the final stretch of his journey, the soft, pearlescent glow resolved into distinct shapes. He could see them now, just as in his dream, the impossible spires that seemed to be carved from solidified moonlight, the glowing bridges of woven light, and the faint, shimmering outline of a vast, protective dome. The city was real, and it was waiting. He approached the source of the city's protection, a great, shimmering bubble of tranquil energy. It was almost invisible, a faint distortion in the water that hummed with a power both immense and ancient. Outside the barrier, the abyss was dark and cold, but inside, the light was warm and inviting. The echo of Aeridor's memory pulled at him, beckoning him home. Lillian reached out a hand and touched the surface. It was not solid, but yielded with a soft, tingling sensation, like passing through a cool mist. He moved through it without hesitation. The immense pressure of the deep ocean vanished in an instant, replaced by a feeling of serene lightness. He was no longer in water. The dome held a clear, breathable atmosphere that felt ancient and pure on his skin. He took his first conscious breath, and it tasted of starlight and sleeping stone. The absolute silence of the abyss was gone, replaced by a different kind of quiet, a preserved silence, heavy with unspoken stories and the potential for sound. He floated gently down, his feet coming to rest on the smooth, wide plaza of the city's main gateway. The scale of the city was breathtaking. The pearlescent towers soared into the luminous dark above, their highest points lost in the soft glow of the dome. The woven bridges of light pulsed with a slow, sleepy rhythm, like a gentle heartbeat. Everything was in a state of perfect preservation. There was no dust, no decay, not a single stone out of place. It was as if every inhabitant of this vast city had simply closed their eyes for a nap a moment ago and were about to wake up. But they did not. The silence remained, a beautiful, tragic, listening silence, full of dreams waiting to be heard. From the silent plaza, Lion felt a gentle pull, not a command, but a soft, sweet scent on the ancient air, leading him away from the grand avenues. He followed it through a high, arching gateway and stepped into the luminous gardens of Aeridor. And he understood at once that the city was not lit by magic alone, but by life. Tall forests of dream kelp swayed in an unseen, gentle current. They were not green, but a deep, tranquil blue, and a soft light traveled up and down their long ribbon-like fronds in slow, hypnotic pulses. The ground was carpeted in sun-globe moss, which seemed to drink the blue light from the kelp and exhale it again as a soft, warm, golden glow. Growing in clusters were flowers that looked like deep-sea anemones, their tentacles of light swaying softly. As Lion passed by, these whisper blooms would contract, not with a sound, but by releasing a single perfect bubble of light. The bubble would float slowly upwards before popping into a silent puff of luminous silver spores that drifted down like gentle snow. The garden was alive with a quiet, sleepy life. Tiny crystal snails moved along the pathways, their translucent shells refracting the shifting lights, painting slow, miniature rainbows on the stones. And schools of small, silvery mothfish did not swim, but flew through the clear air on delicate, translucent wings, drawn to the gentle light of the whisper blooms. Lion walked through this ballet of silent light with a sense of profound awe. There was no sound here, no bird song, no rustling leaves, only the slow, rhythmic pulse of the dream kelp, the soft, warm breath of the sun-globe moss, and the gentle drift of silver spores. He did not disturb a single plant, nor startle a single creature. He was a listener, absorbing the deep, beautiful, and ending peace of a world that was not dead, but only dreaming. Leaving the gentle light of the gardens behind, Lillian felt the pull in his heart grow stronger, more focused. It guided him through the grand, silent avenues, past the beautiful, sleeping towers towards the very center of Aeridor. He arrived at a vast, circular plaza, and in its heart stood the largest building in the city, a great dome made of a single piece of dark, polished crystal. The tall, silver doors stood open, an invitation into the quiet dark. He stepped inside. He was in a vast circular chamber. The air was cool and incredibly still, charged with a latent humming energy. The only light came from the magnificent device that filled the center of the room. It was an orrery, but unlike any he had ever imagined. Made of silver and gold metals that gleamed softly, it was a complex web of rings and pathways of static, frozen light. And instead of planets, hundreds of glowing crystal spheres floated in perfect stillness. Some were as large as boulders, others as small as pebbles, each emitting a soft internal light. As a listener, Lillian understood instantly. This was not a map of the stars. This was an orrery of memories. Each large sphere was a great age in the city's history. Each smaller sphere was a single significant story, a great discovery, a famous poem, a beloved fairy tale. The frozen pathways of light were the threads of their collective history, connecting them all in one grand, beautiful narrative. He drew closer and saw that everything was motionless, frozen at a single, specific moment. On the static rings of light, he could see faint, unmoving images, glyphs of a story. He saw the image of a star falling from the sky. He saw people looking up, their faces not in sleep, but in fear. He saw a great churning wave. The orrery was stopped at the exact moment of the cataclysm, the moment Aeridor was lost to the sea. A deep understanding settled upon Lillian. The city was not just asleep. Its very story, its collective soul, was frozen in time. The plea he had felt was not from a place, but from the memories themselves, trapped and unable to reach their conclusion. His purpose was not to wake the city's people, he now knew, but something deeper. He was here to listen to its final story, and perhaps to allow its memory to flow once more. Lillian stood before the silent orrery, a library of frozen stories. He knew he could not read this history with his eyes. He had to listen with his soul. He felt an instinctual pull towards the very center of the device, to the large, dark sphere where all the threads of light converged and ended. It was the heart of the final memory. He reached out a hand and gently, reverently, placed his palm upon its cool, smooth surface. The story flowed into him, not as words, but as a silent, dreamlike vision. He saw the last queen of Aeridor, Queen Thessa. She was not in the throne room, but here, in this very chamber. Her eyes held the depth of the ocean, and her presence was one of profound calm and power. She was a sea weaver, a wielder of the ocean's oldest magic. The vision showed her looking not at the orrery, but at a vision within it, the prophecy of the falling star. She saw the fire that would consume the city and the lands for leagues around. She saw that there was no escape, only an ending. He felt her quiet sorrow, but beneath it, a powerful, unwavering resolve. The vision shifted. He saw the people of Aeridor gathered peacefully in their homes and in the plazas. There was no panic, only a deep, trusting stillness. They had made a choice, to perish in fire or to place their fate in the hands of their queen and the ancient magic of the sea. The final vision was of the queen, standing where Leon stood now, her hands upon the central sphere. Outside, the star began its fiery descent. But Thessa did not look up in fear. She looked inward, drawing upon all of her own life force and the immense dormant magic of the ocean itself. She did not fight the fire. She embraced the sea. She pulled the ocean over the city in a single great controlled wave, a gentle blanket against the coming flame. At the same moment, she wove the great shimmering bubble of protection and poured her own life's energy into the orrery, putting her city and all its people into a deep, timeless, magical sleep. The act froze the orrery in that final moment, and her own spirit became the dark, silent sphere at its heart. Standing in the heart of the silent city, Leon felt a profound sense of peace settle over him. He understood now that his purpose was not to break the spell or to wake the sleeping people. To do so would be an act of arrogance, undoing the queen's perfect final gift. Her magic was not a curse to be broken, but a shield to be honored. His role was not to change the city's state, but to change its status, from a forgotten echo to a treasured memory. He knew what he must do. It was an instinct born of his lineage as a listener. He placed both his hands upon the cool, dark sphere at the center of the orrery, the final memory of Queen Thessa. He closed his eyes, and he began to sing. It was not a song of sound or voice. It was a song of pure memory, sung from his heart directly into the city's sleeping soul. First, he sang of his journey, of the quiet tower, of the whispering shore, and of the child drawing stars in the dust. He sang of the city's enduring beauty, of the luminous gardens and the silent, graceful towers. He showed the sleeping queen that her city was still beautiful and had been found. Next, he sang the story of her sacrifice back to her. He sang of her wisdom, her courage, and her profound love. He framed it not as a tragic ending, but as the most noble and powerful act a ruler could perform, a story that was now known, honored, and understood. Finally, he sang a promise. He accepted the role of keeper. He promised that as long as he lived, and through all the listeners that might come after him, the memory of Aeridor would never again be a lonely echo. It would be a story told, a memory held, a light kept safe within the heart of the living world. As the last note of his silent song faded, the city responded. The dark sphere in his hands did not activate, but it began to emanate a soft, warm silver light, a light of acceptance, of peace, of a spirit finally at rest. This gentle light flowed from the center back into the frozen pathways of the orrery, filling them with a quiet, peaceful glow. As the silver light of acceptance flowed from the central sphere, it did not jolt the orrery back to life. Instead, it gently thawed the frozen pathways of light. A soft, beautiful hum, deeper than sound, began to resonate through the chamber. And then, with an impossibly slow and stately grace, the orrery began to move. The crystal spheres, the great ages of Aeridor's history, began to rotate gently on their axes, their inner light warming and softening. The static rings of light began to flow once more, the frozen glyphs of the past now drifting along their paths like slow-moving, luminous clouds in a quiet sky. The story of the city was no longer a frozen moment of pain, but a flowing, complete, and beautiful memory. At its heart, the Queen's sphere remained, no longer dark, but glowing with a steady, peaceful silver light, like a gentle moon watching over its own quiet history. The orrery was not reliving its past, but cherishing it in a continuous, peaceful, and eternal loop. As the orrery awakened, the entire city sighed in its sleep. The light from the great dome overhead softened, shifting from a stark pearlescent to a warmer, more golden hue. In the luminous gardens, the pulsing of the dream kelp became synchronized, a slow, rhythmic, and deeply peaceful heartbeat. A soft, resonant hum seemed to rise from the very stones of the city, a collective sigh of relief as it settled into a deeper, more restful slumber, its story finally safe. Leon stood with his hand on the central sphere, feeling this profound peace flow into him. He understood that a permanent connection had been forged. The echo in his heart was no longer a question pulling him from afar. It was now a part of him, a quiet, constant, and beautiful hum of a memory that was, at last, at peace.